This is part 1 of a 4-part video essay series one I have wanted to work on for a while. Omori is a game that will never get out of my mind. Although I was drawn to it as a psychological horror game with a good soundtrack, I was totally unprepared for it to be so resonant. This is my attempt at finally putting together all of my thoughts about Omori, my observations, rants about mere details, character analysis, personal theories, and most importantly, why I connect to it so much. I did get spoiled on the events of the game before I got to play it by myself. It certainly affected the way I see it, and I would wish that on no one. Even though Omori shines by its execution even more than its premise, and even though it's extremely hard to properly convey how good it is in a summary, being able to experience this game blind is an experience that I'll forever regret being barred from. But I'm not gonna do the thing where I give you a spoiler warning, tell you to go play the game yourself, and then retell the game's story in an abridged version, easy for newcomers to follow along. If you haven't played Omori before, this series isn't meant for you. As in, I did not consider your perspective in the making. This means no footage, nothing to watch even. It's not like I have anywhere to store dozens of hours of screen recordings anyways. It also means I'll just sometimes skip key plot points or assume you know about things. And sometimes I'll spend a lot of time on details that mean nothing to you yet. This might be boring. So if you start watching this and it piques your curiosity, but you have trouble following along, this is the universe telling you to go play Omori. Otherwise, this first chapter is mostly just a collection of thoughts I had during my first 2 playthroughs, wrapped in a retelling of sorts. It covers the prologue, and to be honest, it's far from my favorite in the series. I'm unable to get into the meat of things before part 2, so although I have the whole thing written and I know exactly where it's going, it takes its sweet time getting there. Wow, an Omori fan having pacing issues. Who could have guessed? So, I really hope you stick around for the other 3. I'm still getting used to my new mic, so the audio is less than ideal, and this is clearly more of a video to listen to while doing something else. I think that's everything I had to say, so let's dive in. After a mandatory and worrying content warning, Omori welcomes you with a distant-sounding title piano track, with a hint of wind in the background. It's a song that sounds like it's an echo of something that used to be. The actual game starts with a cutscene. Don't worry, everything is going to be okay. If you have played the game, you've seen this scene in context, and it is devastating in hindsight. Not only did everything not go okay, but everything was about to get much worse. And then, you're welcome to white space. You have been living here for as long as you can remember. This isn't a lie, you just can't remember that much. You certainly can't remember what came before. You don't have much in this place, but at least you've got a cat, who taunts you with waiting for something to happen. This is one of those lines that will be repeated again and again, and change meaning over time. You are Omori and you aren't doing anything. Certainly not going outside, not yet. You can't. You have a laptop with a brick wall for wallpaper. This was an actual built-in wallpaper for Windows 95, which this thing clearly runs, but this one is more photorealistic. The metaphorical window has been walled off. You can stare at this wall. You've been keeping a journal in there, not keeping track of days, but it seems that for the past 4 weeks or so, you've been visiting your friends more and more. That's nice, you have friends, you didn't stay alone at all last week. You have tissues to wipe your sorrows away. A black light bulb doesn't light the room, it doesn't need to. You won't burn your retina by staring at it. You have a sketchbook that's full of disturbing imagery of the sort that would worry the people around you if they saw it. Bloody mandalas, severed heads, lots of cats, bloody cats, repeating patterns, and yourself submerged in your bathtub. Your friends are swimming in a sea of giant snakes. They're greeting you. There are even more cats, and an eye cake, and a playground filled with meat. You started writing the alphabet there, probably out of boredom, and then you got tired, and your handwriting started melting away. Cats surrounding you everywhere, light bulbs with eyes in them. Lots of eyes, and even more meat. Red hands, here and there. And red hands are out there that chase you away if you venture too far. And if you escape them, you'll be back to the same place anyways. You cannot escape, not really. But a knife fell on the ground, a shiny, dangerous knife. You cannot let go of it. But now you feel safe enough to go outside. There's color outside, not just black and white. And you are greeted there by your friends Aubrey, Kel and Hero. The first two immediately start bickering over the card game, with the third trying to calm things down, and then over a stolen plushie. This is your first quest, and once you've found Aubrey's plush, you get to explore that world. You've been invited to a picnic by Mary and Basil. The first few tracks in this game were what initially drew me in. They're pretty simple, looping, sounding like an unsettling music box. You get out of a glowing tree stump, another thing that doesn't hit the same on your second playthrough. You stand at a crossroad in the woods. You cannot go west, because you're afraid of spiders. You cannot go east, because you're afraid of heights. You can go north and build a non-anodyne variety of sandcastles with your friends, while one of you goes out for a swim maybe. But if you try to go further, you'll come across something strange and never mind. You cannot go north, you are afraid of drowning. You can, however, go south and join Mary and Basil at the playground. The first few interactions between the six of you do an absolutely excellent job at establishing the character dynamics. By now, Aubrey and Kel have bickered over blackjack, the stolen plushie, the mole on Kel's butt probably, and Aubrey getting stuck in the tree stump. While Hero has tried to mediate things, Mary is messing with the two of them and not so subtly flirting with Hero. Then there's Basil, who seems to stand out to players the most, probably because of his distinct color scheme. Actually, Omori is pretty distinct too, maybe even more so. I'll come back to color schemes later, but basically he's black and white, while everyone else is in colors, mostly purple actually, and Basil has bright green eyes and hair. Basil's an anxious, overly apologetic kid, to the point he apologizes for not believing in himself enough, and he's got a photo album to show everyone. He's the memory keeper of the group. The photo album, at this point, is nothing but lovely. I don't have much to say about the pictures yet, but I really love the second picnic one. It's got everything: Omori curled up on Mary's knees, Aubrey leaning on her, Hero and Mary holding hands and blushing while Hero's other hand is on the forehead of a juice-stained sleepy Kel. The characters' relationships perfectly captured in one shot. Basil has more things to show to us, like the flowers in his garden, but before he gets to, we get roped in a game of hide-and-seek by another kid on the playground, Burley. Most of us are reluctant to participate, but Burley won't let us go. She takes this thing very seriously. Omori pulls the shortest straw and has to be it. All of his friends take issue with that. Omori doesn't like to be alone. Makes you wonder why he spends so much time isolated in his white space. So, the moment you, Omori, start searching for everyone, Kel makes sure he's the first person you find. He's completely unwilling to leave you alone now. That's sweet of him. Bosses have been banned from the playground, so that won't be a danger for now. Aubrey is eager to join Kel in helping you, while Hero had probably found an excellent hideout, but got roped into joining a young couple's exercise routine. Kel points out his difficulty saying no to people. It will be relevant. Mary didn't join the game, but is keeping tabs on the people you haven't found. And by the time Burley does the roll call, Basil is still missing. He won, but only because he's become an hostage to the game's first boss, who resents being banned from the place, and thus begins the game's first battle. The battle system is fairly simple, although it will get more complex in time. If you've been keeping track, Kel's weapon is a rubber ball, Aubrey's is her stuffed toy, Hero's is a spatula, and Omori's is this knife he found, with matching attack noises. In the end, all of us are defeated, turned into literal toast by boss, save for Omori, who doesn't succumb. That's kind of his thing. He gets to deliver the final blow, and we're free to go to Basil's house. Before then, we can have a picnic with Mary, and everyone gets to make more flower crowns. Well, I don't really know what Kel is doing, and Hero is still struggling, but everyone else seems to be doing okay, and Basil is anxiously tapping his legs. We also get to lie in the grass with Sean and Ren, the young couple I mentioned earlier, and stare at the night sky. The stars shine brightly overhead. if the laptop's clock was anything to go by, it is past midnight and all of us are wearing pajamas. Basil starts using his flowers to tell us what he thinks of each of us, and that's where the contradictions begin to show. Basil is a sunflower, or rather would like to be a sunflower, always seeing the bright side of things. But Mary is a lily of the valley because she always helps him stay positive. He can't actually do that much on his own. Basil isn't an optimist, but really wishes he was one. Hero is roses, all of them, because he's versatile and universally loved. That's a plain compliment, while everyone else will get an ambiguous one. Aubrey's a gladiolus because she's stubborn. Basil puts it in nicer terms, but does not attempt to deny that rephrasing. Kel is a cactus because even he could take care of one. There is a much nicer way to interpret the comparison though, and the bird flies over his head. And Omori is a white tulip. Plain, simple, bulbous, cute. For now, Omori will remember the name of each of those. For now. In the meantime, Hero is teaching us about battles. We keep encountering aggressive lost sprout moles damaging the flowers. And Aubrey is quick to suggest killing those because she loves violence. The battle system is based around emotions: angry, happy, sad. Each of them gives you certain advantages and debuffs, and Hero has drawn a convenient chart to explain those. It's drawn in a chibi art style that is implied to be his own in universe, because outside the game it's used on his official cookbook. But more curiously, he's drawn himself to illustrate sadness, Aubrey as anger, Kel as happiness, and Omori as neutrality. This doesn't match the associations that have been drawn so far. When it comes to skills, Omori is the one that can inflict sadness by reading sad poetry, no less. Aubrey can make a friend or foe happy, and Kel can make one angry. By now, Hero has learned how to remove emotions through massages, but his skills lie mostly in healing by cooking. If you've played the game though, this chart is oddly premonitory. Whenever we win, everyone's portrait is covered in confetti, and they all seemed overjoyed, except for Omori who says cliff-faced, as Maverick puts it. We join her again for a healing picnic. Although she never joined us on our journey, or even left her blanket, she's already ahead of us somehow. In the conversation that ensues, Aubrey asks Omori whether he thinks Mary is effortlessly graceful, and you're tempted to answer yes, to be nice, even though it's not true. She puts a lot of effort in it, she just said so, and Omori knows that. But Aubrey will call him out on disrespecting his older sister if he answers no. During picnics, Basil looks at his photo album again, by the way. Everyone has some idle animation with Omori curling up every time, in the fetal position, just like that sad sprout mole we killed earlier. That one battle was weirdly cruel. Before you get to Basil's house, one last battle with the father of all sprout moles is the occasion to learn about another subtlety of the battle system, collaborative follow-ups, which we'll go over later, and the special attack, release energy, in which everyone brandishes their weapon, and with the power of friendship and incredible violence, we inflict a massive amount of damage. By then, we have grown to level 3, and Omori has learned a new skill, stab. In front of Basil's home, Kel and Aubrey have another fight, their 6th one so far, over getting to see a blurry picture he just took of them, and end up pushing Basil over with the album. In the end, it's nothing too bad. It's okay, don't worry about it. Accidents happen, he says. But the photos have been spilled over and need to be put back into place. It's up to Omori to do it, because Hero tells us he has a very good memory. We make our way into Basil's house, and an upbeat version of A Home for Flowers, his theme, starts playing. The fireplace is warm. There are plants everywhere, including a flower pot suspended right above Basil's bed, which seems really unsafe. The album is Basil's most precious belonging, we are told. And once you're done putting the pictures back in place, one of them falls off again. A picture Basil doesn't remember taking. A picture Basil still recognizes somehow, and that clearly unsettles him. The music has stopped. The fire is still burning. And something strange is behind him. The way Omori the game does jump scares deserves a comment or two. They're so fast-paced that they do not imprint your retina at all. You're just left wondering what you just saw. I can't count the number of players I've seen at this point, convinced that they just saw a picture of a dead body. They did not. You've been jump-scared by a blurry image of a broken violin. And then, the heartbeat starts. Omori is back in white space, but not back to square one. First, there's no door to get out this time. Second, the sketchbook has something new at the end. The same thing that we briefly saw at the Northern Lake. And it is distinctly not a sketch. Unlike everything else that seems to be drawn with black and red crayons, that thing looks painted. Third, Miwo has actually got stuff to meow this time. Very unethical stuff to meow. Not much to do around here, is there? Or is there? Are you looking for a way out? There always is one, but waiting for something to happen? That line just took a completely different meaning, because fourth, this isn't a level 1 Omori anymore. This is a level 3 Omori, with a level 3 stats and level 3 skills. Among them, Stab, which is now a bright red button glowing in the menu. When I did my Occitan language playthrough a year ago, I slowly reiterated the content warning as I pressed it and Omori ikebanad himself. The heartbeat had stopped. The next cutscene overlays the projector sounds with a distant yet familiar theme in an unfamiliar arrangement. Photograph is clearly based on Lost at a Sleepover, but like the memories, it's a little sad now. And it has a great drop. Another promise taken to Basil and not held. Meet Sonny, or whatever you decide to name him. He's your actual protagonist, a teenage boy who just woke up brutally in the middle of the night. He doesn't get to turn the lights on because his mom forgot about that, and by the way, he's moving. And she has already moved, so he's alone in this dark house. She leaves him notes and voicemails, and also tells him that his old friend Kel has been trying to get a hold of him for several months and seems pretty lonely. She left Sonny a single piece of steak in the fridge, if that fridge even still works, which is good because Sonny's hungry. You better have good screen brightness for this whole section. There is no music but the sounds of the night. Specifically, what you remember night sounding like as a kid when you couldn't sleep. So he ventures out of the room, into a corridor that has ordinary houseplants, nothing special about them, and one of 2 grandfather clocks. They stopped working a long time ago, but Mom likes to keep them around. I'll have to take him at his word for there being 2 of those, and Sonny won't go downstairs. He turns back after a step or 2. He too is afraid of heights. He shares that with Omori. They're not the same, but they do look similar. Sonny looks older. He has a skin tone, he owns dollars, and looking down the stairs makes him sick, so he'd rather go back to bed. He's still hungry though, so that won't do. As he exits the room to try going downstairs once again, a strident noise greets your ears. The door was locked behind him, and so was the bathroom door and Mom's room's door. Sonny's still alone in this house. The night sky glows bright red through the window. You feel strangely drawn to it, worrying. And here's the part that startled me more than any other during my first playthrough. While looking at the corridor again, I had Sonny break a photo frame off the wall. Not only did I not have any idea that this could happen, but that frame was on the ground last time I checked. Actually, nothing was on the walls the first time, and the cardboard boxes were not in those places. And Sonny had more to say about the grandfather clock and the houseplant than just that, and the houseplant was not actually in the corridor, and there were fake ones on these tables. And there were bookshelves, and the wallpaper was not scraped off the wall. Where am I? When am I? What is this place? Is this even the same house anymore? Is this even real life? Once Sonny has decided to go down, there's no turning back. No matter how loud the gust of wind gets, no matter how impossibly long those stairs are, no matter how slow he's stepping, no matter how loud the whispers get. whispering words I can't quite make out, no matter how many hands surround him in all directions as he anxiously looks around. No matter how fast this one hand that doesn't look quite like the others is chasing him. At least he's picked up his very own shiny knife midway through the stairs, which is good because he's now stuck in a fight with something. What is that thing? You don't know at this point. It has a creepy wide smile, a myriad of hyper-realistic or painted hands. Its textures just look off, and it is taunting you as you fall. You cannot hurt it. You cannot do anything to it. In fact, you don't have any skills in there. You are afraid, an emotion Hero didn't mention before, one that basically paralyzes you, until a disembodied voice reminds you how to calm down and breathe. Is it coming from something? You follow its advice anyways. You take a deep breath. Son is now standing at the bottom of the stairs at least. He's still hungry. He's also unarmed now, because I guess that shiny knife wasn't real. On the right, there's a door he won't cross. On the left, there is nothing. You know there is nothing there because the game tells you. This is usually what happens when there is nothing somewhere. You get a pop-up message to tell you so. Don't overthink it. In fact, don't think about it at all. There is nothing there. In the living room, there are a couple more doors Sonny won't cross, a noticeable lack of furniture, you're moving, remember? And next to the garden door, there used to be something. Again, this is what the game tells me. I had never gone back to check what that thing was until now. I hope I remember to tell you in time. Sonny heads to the kitchen to grab the one remaining cold steak his mom left him for the next few days and warm it in the microwave, and grab an actual knife to cut it, only to end up with food intoxication from this microwave-warmed, well-done, frozen steak. Thanks for nothing, Sonny's mom. You make your way, dizzy and wobbly, to the bathroom to puke there, and as soon as you come out, someone's banging at the door, insistently. It's Mary. She forgot her keys. You hesitate for a second. Could it really be her? How could it be her? You decide to open the door, maybe, but slowly, because whatever stands outside doesn't look like your sister, not really. In an instant, Sonny closes the door before anything could get in from outside. You aren't sure what you saw, once again. It happened so fast. He's safe inside, I suppose. He certainly isn't opening that door again. He's alone again? Or is he? There are noises creeping along the corridor. Noises you haven't heard yet. That thing you barely saw outside now stands behind his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Was he ever alone in this house? Was he ever safe? Sonny makes his way back to bed, his stomach even emptier, and stares at the darkness, at the corners of his room, at the fan, at the plants that are starting to look like people, until he falls asleep. Welcome back to White Space, Omori. You have been living here for the longest you can remember. Glad to see you're alive. You survived whatever that was. You look at your laptop, and although you're maybe jump scared by something you don't have the time to perceive, but which is clearly watching you, you begin the game of hangman. You have to find the right letters to not get hanged. The hints form a poem. They have no reason to do so, but it's a nice touch. You find a map of Headspace. It's a wide world out there, and you've barely seen any of it. There is a spider on the moon. The others have been worrying about you, as they should. You did off yourself half an hour ago. Somehow you got better. Basil disappeared the moment you did, and it is now your mission to find him. Or maybe, as I thought the first time, he got written out. There is now a trail of blood in the grass near the stump. It leads to your first letter, A. It's a vowel, so unsurprisingly, it's one you needed. You stand at a crossroad. You cannot go west because you're afraid of spiders. You cannot go north because you're afraid of drowning. You cannot go west because, hey, Omori, Mary's worried about you. Go see her. Upon seeing him, Mary immediately hugs Omori. She's so relieved he's doing okay. She thought Basil was with you. In fact, the places you two went to couldn't be more different. Hero is somewhat aware that his life is discontinuous. He doesn't remember anything between then and now. Mary's theme, By Your Side, is playing every time you reunite with her. It is calming, meandering, and much more musically complex than any of the early Headspace tracks. White space, low status sleepover, spaces in between, Mary is your rock. She's where you go to heal, she's where you go to save. When you'll have a hard time with the game, you'll always end up looking for her, and you'll always be relieved to find her. There's something new on the playground, a floating mirror. Your friends smile warmly behind you. You don't. You head over to Basil's house. His flowers have already started dying, specifically the sunflowers. You vow to take care of them until you find him. It makes you feel a little better. Basil doesn't do well alone, Mary tells you. Neither do you. Aubrey thinks we aren't worried enough about Basil, but he's too naive, too easily tricked. Kel trusts that he's actually pretty strong on the inside. Now, she's the one not believing in him enough. There is, in fact, something out of the ordinary in his house, but Hero didn't see it. To be fair, he entered last, but I doubt even Aubrey saw it. I don't think she's wrong to be worried though. Neither she nor Mary think living without telling anyone is much like him. They should. The fireplace is still burning. We are now deep enough in the game that I can start discussing its more intricate aspects. What is Omori the game about? It's about finding Basil, and it's about saving Basil, and it's about remembering. Kel and Hero are terrible with remembering people's names. Omori's memory gets hyped up once again. He has already forgotten what Basil's flowers were called. As you start scouring the forest, hoping to find him, trees begins to sound different. Meandering, hollow, a little sad, kind of hopeless, but still pretty. It's been playing for a while, ever since you followed Basil south, but it's only now sending chills down my spine. I've said before that the color palette of this game deserves some discussion, so here we go. Headspace uses a very distinctive palette that for a while I couldn't quite identify because of how counterintuitive it is. The black, white and bright red that characterize whitespace are completely absent here. In fact, every outline, every shadow, even your friend's supposedly dark hair and features, all use the next best thing. A dark purple or a purple grey, Payne's grey. The dominant accent colors are actually heliotrope pink and light emerald green. I remember getting my first big box of pens, a 2-story metal box. The black, grey and brown shades were all in the lower story, so I'd often use those dark purple tints instead, out of laziness maybe. And I was also immediately drawn to these very tints of heliotrope and light emerald for my first drawings. They stood out from the rest, looking almost unnatural, like the closest thing the visible spectrum has to neon colors. This is when I realized, wait, I know this place. It reminded me of the frescoes we used to draw on the back of my grandma's unused wallpaper rolls. We'd invent landscapes and houses and towns and worlds to fill them. This game has the best twist on the "it was all a dream" trope that I could ever think of. We found out about that not even halfway through the prologue, and although it feels like you're playing a completely different game from now on, it being a dream doesn't make it less real in a way. It's nowhere near the morning, so there was no reason for Sunny not to go to bed. Headspace may be just a dream, but it's the only word Omori and his friends know. It's discontinuous, but quite internally consistent, complex, but weirdly grounded and engaging as a plot, for the time being. It's lucid, perhaps, but the colors of white space are creeping in. The red trail of blood leading to the black hangman key, and the black crack it leaves behind it in the ground, and the cracks left behind every anomaly, and the anomalies themselves. And of course Omori himself, who keeps standing out in the world of Headspace. Does he even belong here? We are now getting into random encounter battles, mostly with lost sprout moles and bunnies. They are measly, basic enemies. They are not sentient as far as we know. They can hit pretty hard at this point, but so can we, especially Aubrey. Omori's stabbing skill, which he acquired earlier and had never used on anything but himself, turns out to be pretty powerful. It ignores the stabby's defense when Omori is sad. I'll let you draw conclusions from that. The follow-up attacks rely on teamwork, which Omori seems to not be that good at. He isn't paying attention when Kel passes the ball to him, which makes him sad, or when Aubrey glances at him, so she attacks harder to make sure he notices her. We enter a small clearing, and the music gets dimmer. There is something there, never mind. It's nothing, just a tire swing. Don't overthink it. Don't think about it at all. Actually, I've thought a lot about the tire swing. Children do tend to have favorite trees, but usually they need a reason for that, and the swing is a really good one. To come back to the color palette, the river is more purple than blue, the ground is pink, the tree trunks are pink, but you barely notice. Their leaves have that shade of emerald green that once again you don't tend to see in nature, and the grass likewise. Had you even noticed that the sand at the beach was pink? I sure hadn't. The palette is used so skillfully that you'd forget it's even there. There is another ladder in the middle of the forest. It's not as high as the other one, but it's clearly too high for Omori still. And yet, trails of blood still lead to it. You can decide when to climb it, and it takes a very different significance depending on when you do that. Before we're done with exploring the forest, we let Burley join our party to find her missing tetherball. It's one of the most annoying but also most rewarding side quests in the game. Omori is now able to use his knife to cut out the weeds that block our path. We accidentally run into a big strong tree that's also an enemy we can fight. Well, we can try to. It has such high defense it just won't take any damage. Why? Why won't it fall? At least it doesn't hurt us. We come across a train station with a frozen line full of colorful characters. Headspace is a well-populated world. It's also a cruel one, and the train station makes that more apparent. We finally meet the famed cute leaf Mary was talking about earlier. It wants us to exterminate more bunnies. 5. No, 25. No, 50. And we start a conversation with an easily offended sprout mole. Yeah, it turns out those are sentient. At least until they have to ask for directions, at which point they lose all sense. This one charges us, and we easily kill it. It was just a guy waiting in line. Those waiting behind it don't even step forward. Soon we will meet most of those guys again. Some of them like to engage in foreshadowing. One of them has a triple interrogation mark for his name, which means he'll be relevant later. There's also the spelling bee, the game's most annoying NPC, who spells her name with so many E's you're tempted to smash the Z key, getting you stuck in the same dialogue again and again. We come across many watermelons containing items, some of which we won't be able to actually access for a while. Neither will we know what to do with this heart bulb in one of the dark meadows. There is a color code for what we are finding actually. Blue for skills, yellow for important items, green for snacks, orange for toys, cyan for places, purple for charms and weapons. That leaves out only one color of the rainbow, which is reserved for stabbing. Tendencies have now settled him. Aubrey has the highest attack by far and the lowest luck and juice. She and Hero have pretty high heart. Hero also has the highest defense and the lowest attack and speed. The speedster is Cal, and you can see that in cutscenes. He always walks faster and completes things like his sandcastles first, while Hero is usually the slowest at those things. This is just a small example of how stats are used for storytelling. Kale also has the most juice, but the least heart, which means it's gonna be hard to keep alive in some of the fights. In a meadow, a wise rock gives advice for money. Some of it is cheeky. Not all advice is good advice. Listen to everyone's advice. And some of it is very applicable here. Do something today that you'll thank yourself for tomorrow. Pain doesn't last forever. If opportunity doesn't knock, you can always build a door. Your problems will catch up to you eventually. Anything is okay as long as you don't get caught. Some more is just jokes, lore, or straight up not advice at all, just trivia. In another meadow, we find the dog house of a ghost dog. You may or may not actually meet it, and never for long. You can, however, pet the dog. Trees has been replaced by the sound of shores, accompanied by the echoes of a distant melody, that of white space once again, played hesitantly on a piano. We leave the forest to walk along a pier over the misty sea. There are lampposts in the sea and floating trees. On this shrouded old bridge we find a B or second key. Another black crack is left over the purple sea. The bridge bifurcates into a labyrinth of piers. At the end of a plank we cannot reach yet, a shadowy figure glances at us and vanishes. He looks kind of like Basil. The letter R is there too. As promised, Burley teaches Aubrey to headbutt. She gains a butt certificate, as Mary puts it. Burley was probably up all night thinking up that one, and also a concussion. Headbutt is a very strong skill, perhaps the strongest so far. It hurts more when Aubrey is angry. Just like you benefit from making Omori sad, you benefit from making Aubrey angry, maybe even more so. The best way to do so is exposure to Kel. Any exposure will suffice, even just glancing at him during battle. I've seen someone suggest that whichever emotion you use more often on a character might affect their overall temperament later in the game, and although this isn't mechanically the case, and it wouldn't make sense, causality doesn't work that way, it kind of narratively is at least. Also, take note that headbutting hurts Aubrey. This is gonna be a common thread with her attacks. Aubrey will hurt herself, hurting others. We check up with Mary, as we haven't found Basil anywhere in the forest. She encourages her brother to face his fears and consider climbing the ladder. Aubrey has qualms about that, but the others are insistent, especially Kel, who is very willing to push Omori out of his comfort zone if that's the right thing to do. He shares that with Mary. This is where I decided to take a break to play cards with everyone else. They seem very concentrated. They keep piling cards up until there are so many that everything falls over to the shock of everyone. Aubrey picks them up again. I bet you didn't know that. We make our way to the ladder. Hero, Aubrey and Kel remind Omori of Mary's words. They encourage him, just like she would if she were there. The hands surround him, but Omori is stronger than the hands. Just like that, you are no longer scared of heights. While Sunny's fears and panic attacks cannot be overcome without his breathing skills, and recalling them takes him a while, Omori's are overcome just with words of encouragement. And now, it's like the fear never existed in the first place. Moments later, Hero wonders out loud why we didn't climb that ladder earlier. The reason has been written out, but he is aware of that. In the emptiness of space, once again, the echoes of white space can be heard. This seems to happen every time we get far from Headspace's core. Kel realizes he's lost his pet rock, Hector. It is not, in fact, the normal rock at the bottom of the ladder. The feelings of responsibility and immediate guilt he expresses, I believe, are modeled on what he's seen in his older brother. But now is not the time to discuss that. We enter a small planet from the bottom, glancing at galleries in the ground. It is once again full of melons we won't be able to access for a short while. This is Otherworld. Upon arrival on the surface, Kel plants a flag made out of Aubrey's birth certificate. Embarrassed, she begs Hero to intervene, but he's still catching his breath from the climbing, and will be for a while. The certificate is still fluttering, so majestic, so beautiful. Omori did enjoy that bit. Fittingly, the truck that welcomes us, Sugar Star Planetarium, feels like it is never taking a breath, possibly because of its 6/4 rhythm. We arrive on a cattail field, which we cannot explore because a duck named Chell is blocking our path. She lost a donut. This is not a quest. We will find the donut later, but we won't be able to give it to her. So we head north to the Otherworld campsite, another place filled with colorful alien denizens. On Otherworld, the color scheme of Headspace is becoming more apparent because it got inverted. The trees have light emerald trunks and heliotropy leaves, which is more noticeable than the opposite. The soundtrack of this section is Jami Lynne's magnum opus, and it's so fun to listen to, so upbeat. You'd think this planet doesn't have any dark secrets, and it does. We're greeted by Lost and Found, an energetic for elaboration on the sleepover leitmotif. Oh, and Mary precedes us here, once again. One of the houses is inhabited by a family of those ducks that look like rabbits from the optical illusions. They set us on a quest for their son. I decide to head east for now. I meet Snally, a guy who does that annoying thing where he gets in your way by trying to avoid you. I feel called out. He will be seen again. Omori is now able to cut down traffic cones, and he uses that ability on a bunch of them that turned out to be isolating an acutely socially withdrawn sprout mole that was just minding its own business and asks us to fix our mess. On the wall, a peculiar face is indented. We don't know what to make of it yet. We come across 4 veggie kids on an adventure. They're explorers. They're gonna explore. They're adventurers. They are literally us. We messed up their line and it will not get fixed. From the east, we can access the cattail field, and from there, the sprout mole colony. It is in fact filled with items. But it also contains the sprout mole that won the most host trophy, confining the centaur we met earlier to the 2nd place. There is a locked barn in this field. We meet a tall lady, Poe, and talking to her reveals that Kel is quite insecure about his height. Having now found the duck rabbit sound, I go find Mary, who knows that he's just as much as a daydreamer as Omori, and that our agreeing to massacre bunnies for Leafy will upset Aubrey. So far she hasn't flinched. But in some beta versions of the game, she would straight up refuse to attack them. We encounter and fight a buff planet guy. He doesn't have a name yet, so he will be relevant. There is zero reason for his arms to be separate enemies, except to make this battle harder. This is a lot of people's first battle in Otherworld, and the message is clear enough. Level up or you will die. One of the houses belongs to a Sweetheart Stallion cosplayer, and that's how we first find out about Sweetheart, and it's immediately obvious that Omori despises her. Finally, we enter the house of the leader of the Space Pirates, Space Boyfriend, and we offer to the pirates to talk some sense into him, as he's depressed and hasn't left his bed since Sweetheart stopped coming. As soon as we entered the lair, I was stricken by a couple of things. Cardboard boxes littered around the house, ordinary houseplants, nothing special about them, long stairs. Doesn't this place remind you of anything? It screams this is a metaphor to me, but I haven't figured all of it out. Bits keep clicking together, but they form varied and incoherent pictures. What I can say, though, is that the Otherworld section is clearly a part of the main plot. Anyways, once we've found out the main issue with Space Boyfriend, well, the main issue at the moment, this guy has so many more problems, too many to get into, is the loss of his special mixtape. Kel goes, oh no! Anyways, but Aubrey insists that we must take care of finding it. So, this will be our first major side quest. Our first quest so large that it throws us off our main goal, to the point the characters temporarily forget about it. Anyways, we are directed to the junkyard to go look for that, and we go through a bridge over the solar system. We are given the option to disturb the Earth, which is code for getting into a fight. Sure, let's fight the Earth. During the battle, the Earth is cruel to Omori and gives him depression. Sadly, that's pretty on brand for her. The fight is certainly one of the toughest ones so far. In fact, it's one where you should be as sad as possible to not take as much damage. Because as we get near the end, the planet uses her ultimate attack, a nuke. We barely make it. She doesn't make it much farther. The Earth is destroyed and we should feel bad about it. We destroyed the Earth while feeling bad about it. I feel like that's commentary. Also, the planet Pluto is missing. He's the guy we fought earlier. We could tell because we'd already seen the wanted posters even earlier at the playground. In the junkyard, we encounter and fight discarded tech. Doom boxes, haunted bomb boxes, mixtapes, a dial-up modem that doesn't actually hurt us, just makes us hurt ourselves in frustration because it's so mind-numbingly slow. Hero has fond memories of all of those, but to Omori they're obscure and ancient. Kids born a few years apart can have wildly different experiences of technology. Does that give a more precise idea of the setting, or does that contradict it some more? Either way, I know all of this from looking through the Faux Facts journal, which you should do as well. It's the only place where you can hear Omori's voice and inner thoughts, in addition to clearing up parts of the world building of Headspace. Well, he also has opinions on every food item. Another thing apparent from the journal is just how much Hero loves bad puns. Also, the track we've been fighting all of those devices to, 3-bar logos, is so catchy I keep forgetting about everything else listening to it. The junkyard is where we find out about another core mechanic, and a very fun one at that, tagging. Aubrey's tagging ability is the first to be revealed. She can smash obstacles to clear the way. She loves destruction and making fun of Kel almost as much as Hero loves puns. Aubrey's is the most often needed ability throughout Headspace. Technically, we already knew about Omori's ability of cutting away smaller obstacles. Hero's special skill is being a looker and a smooth talker, so he can get NPCs to act his way. This isn't limited to conveyor belts. It's never explicitly indicated, but Hero can sway dozens of NPCs across the game. He also has hamster summoning powers, but those are, on the other hand, never brought up again after the encounter with emergency medical services. Finally, Kel has the ability to throw projectiles, which requires an elevated platform. That ability will get updated and made more relevant in time, but for now we just needed to explode a recalcitrant robot that's blocking our path. Also, the tagging pictures are lovely, and once again they are really good at summing up the character dynamics. I really like the Omori type Kel one. Kel's doing that comparing sizes thing that kids do and blatantly cheating at it like kids do. In the toilets, we find ramen. For the longest time I thought that was a reference to the fixing things with ramen meme from 2019, but it probably isn't. We also meet the life jam guy, who offers to demo the usefulness of life jam, the jam that revives you, by killing all of us. Omori, as usual, doesn't succumb, allowing him to make use of the free samples. In this game you see the dead become toast, and spreading jam on that toast revives them. It's a pun that's now being extended as a metaphor. It will get deeper. Like the neighbor's room before it, the junkyard's tunnels contain a photo of someone familiar surrounded by candles. Given this is the part of the game where you find out about tagging, Omori probably isn't leading the group, but if he happens to be, the memorial immediately disappears. Sometimes, for a split second, you catch a glimpse of something. At every occasion, Kel's been digging into the trash. It's what we're here for, but it's also one of his pastimes, something he would indulge in even if nobody asked. The fact that a large part of this planet, once a pristine wildlife reserve, was turned into a discharge keeps being brought to our attention. This whole sequence seems to have an environmental message, albeit a confused one. What do you mean, hero? We should recycle our trash? We just destroyed the actual Earth. And yet, everyone we meet is longing for the landscape of Otherworld, and soon, so will we. Mary could have sworn she saw Basil near the campsite. In the junkyard, we end up scouring a labyrinth of tunnels that are filled with garbage that no longer looks like normal garbage. In fact, a lot of it seems oddly familiar. Toy cars, party hats, dirty clothes, a corkboard. At the top of the pile of garbage is a couch we can admire the moon from. Kel comes up with his first fake motto on there. You just gotta wake up and smell the roses. Things like this tend to come by three. On the couch, Omori and Aubrey keep wiggling closer to and away from each other. Near a cast-off cartridge I cannot locate, we find the letter D. But it's behind a large block of garbage, itself situated behind a few cones, so we need to call upon Omori's skills and immediately afterwards Aubrey's. Meaning that as we approach the letter, Aubrey is leading and now the key is a blurry mess that she cannot fully perceive. Keys aren't just a headspace side quest, they are also something that only Omori can see, and they are black, a color that is still not part of this world, but is slowly creeping in. D, however, isn't the letter we need. We finally come across Rosa, one of several #1 sweetheart fans in the world. She's beaten us by seconds to the mixtape, and she has no intention of letting anyone else have it. So Kel, immediately, threatens to take it by force. You'd be tempted to dismiss that as video game logic, but I don't think that's what's going on here. And Rosa is quick to call us out. Violence never solved anything. Rosa is the first sentient sprout mold we are plot mandated to encounter, and as such, we don't get to actually harm her. We haven't harmed anything sentient that we know of. But that mole is fast and extremely agile and hard to follow and stupidly strong, throwing roadblocks many times her weight onto our path. Stardust Diving, the junkyard OST, is now playing twice as fast as Stardust Dusting, implying that we need to speed through the rest of the junkyard. That would, however, be a grave mistake, as we'd miss some of the best items so far, which are hidden in this section: a TV remote, a rain cloud, and most importantly, a baking pan, an upgraded weapon for Hero that comes with snack time, a skill allowing him to heal the whole party. In fact, by now, Kel and Aubrey's weapons have also been upgraded, respectively with a meteor ball and a comet hammer, if you've been thorough of course. Omori, though, is knife-bound. He will not let go of the shiny blade. Skills have also gotten better over time. Aubrey got Counter, another mutually destructive ability to hurt and get hurt at the same time on behalf of the team. Hero 2 can withstand harm for everyone using Charm, the first of many skills that rely on his good looks. Omori got Bread Slice, which is fun to use but seldom usable, and Mock, which takes advantage of angry enemies. Hell hasn't learned anything new since Rebound, but he soon will. Patterns are setting in still, which I'll comment further on once they're well established. Anyways, Rosa stops moving or respawning behind a yellow line labeled "Do Not Cross", and as we cross it, we get into the most puzzling encounter so far, for me. A lot of people love this battle because it elicits a mixed nostalgia, but it's such a composite boss that for the programmer in me, it's just confusing. It's a download window. It's running on what is meant to be Windows XP with the classic theme and the Bliss wallpaper, well, Bliss with a big tree. It's already at 99% and it's stuck there. It's estimating 0 seconds late, which is a bit silly. Windows back then was really bad at estimating download time, but it was also much more inconsistent and the estimate should be oscillating rapidly between seconds, minutes, days even. What are we even downloading? A virus, it would seem? After a few turns, it crashes and burns, opening tons of pop-up windows and inflicting heavy damage. I suppose it's a virus that downloads more viruses, some kind of Google.com like adware perhaps. By defeating it, we gain 404 XP. An error 404 happens when the resource requested is not found, so perhaps the downloading of more viruses failed because the server they were on was unavailable. But then we get the Alt F4 achievement, which implies we close the window. Which one would that be? The best way to make sense of it is if we closed the program that ran the server the viruses were stored on, that we accidentally started downloading. Bit of a stretch, I know, but it would make us skilled hackers. Especially given, if Hero's reaction is anything to go by, it was all very confusing and surrealist in the moment. The full facts entry just says error, which could mean anything. It's definitely not an error pop-up though. We do end up taking the mixtape from a still stand Rosa, which Kels refers to as finders keepers, ironic. Rosa then reveals that the mixtape was thrown away intentionally by Space Boyfriend after breaking up with Sweetheart. We chose to ignore this information, while Kel does. Rosa promises vengeance. Further south, we topple the truck that was blocking our path earlier, which turns out to be a cardboard cutout. We encounter fugitive ex-planet Pluto again, and we help him escape the pirates. While we pretend to act natural in front of them, the idle animations we default to are worth a note. Aubrey is twirling, Hero is shining, and Kel is doing whatever he wanted Basil to take a picture of earlier. Handstands maybe? We're not particularly good at lying, but the pirates are fairly gullible, so it's not a problem. And here's something much more curious. Kel and Aubrey are both deeply moved by Pluto's emotional monologue, but Hero isn't, and he's shocked that they are. Hero is not letting himself be moved by the idea of living your dreams against everyone else's expectations. If anything, he's having some sort of cringe response to that thought. I don't think that's anodyne. Either way, Pluto's dream is running a transportation company. He's our fast travel system. He plays smooth jazz while traveling. He's never gonna wait for Kel to be comfortably seated. He is, however, gonna teach him how to flex, a skill that among other things negates the accuracy downsides of happiness. This is very good because Kel's about to learn run and gun, if he hasn't already, which deals damage based on speed. He's already the fastest in the group, and with happiness increasing your speed, Kel stands to benefit from being happy in battle. Now that we can tag, we all get to interact with everyone else. Mary's already been complimenting Omori's rare smile. She now gets to compliment Aubrey's hairdo, Kel's growth spurt, and Hero's everything, flirtily. There's no plot bit left until the next boss battle, so I decide to tower the planet once more. First, let's get Hero to interact with NPCs. He gets discounts at the stores. He's charming enough to gather the crowds in the cattle field. Somehow, he's able to adapt his manner of speaking to each crowd before he's even heard from them. He seemingly has at some point in the past been so helpful in a variety of ways to so many characters that they can barely repay him, although they do try to with useful items. Each of them sends him off to his true calling, being a defender, a deliverer, a liberator, a caregiver, a protector, a defender, a guide, a hero, an angel, a pace setter, an influence, a peacemaker, a philanthropist, an accountant, a friend, a donor, a support, a blessing, a justice, a mentor, a forager, a salami. Yeah, I don't know about that last one. The stories of his heroism get wilder each time. Even the misanthropic sprout mole in the middle of the traffic cones likes Hero. There's a room where we get to moonwalk. It also has a golden door, another thing we won't know what to do with for a while. And on the back of the moonwalk sign there's a message. Please, don't make the same mistake that I made. Signed M. I have no idea what to make of that. At the lake, there's a message in a bottle left for us to complete. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's... I figured the last word would be Omori, even before I knew of the song. Just made sense, musically, you know. We can't reach the island in the middle of the lake yet, though. Omori is afraid of drowning. South of that lake is another lake, a frozen one. Mary is there, of course, watching the snow fall. She suggests Omori and her go ice skating one day. We get to fish here. Hiro goes first and hooks up a sprout mole, and he immediately throws it back into the lake. That's kinda cruel. I didn't remember catching such a variety of things there though. An old boot, a real fish, an octopus, an orange, nuclear waste, a crab, an O the letter, something so big that it bit the rope off, tofu which we didn't throw away, a vending machine which still worked. There's also a well-hidden, completely blind path to the large CRT television at the campsite. The TV girl that lives in there sends us on a quest for a list of thingies in the junkyard. Completing that quest will allow us to get coffee, one of the most powerful items in the game. I then took a detour through the vast forest. We had a lot to do there. Water basil's flowers, complete our oldest quest, we had a flower puzzle, and see how far we got with regard to the bunny slaying. Have Hiro talk to the folks at the train station. Finally, it is time for me to follow the red footprints. Omori is no longer afraid of heights, so it shouldn't be a problem. The Pinwheel Forest is one of the most puzzling locations in the game. You are technically able to go there as soon as Omori has overcome his fear of heights. However, most players don't choose to do so. Despite having been aware of its existence since the beginning of the prologue, quite a few in fact only reach it near the very end of the game. And it's a place which has a very different feel depending on when you reach it. First, it's very similar to the vast forest in design, only foggier. It doesn't even have its own type of bunnies. Second, the letter C is there, between giant pinwheels. It's such a crucial letter to the Hangman game that if you've collected it, by the end of the prologue, you've probably already guessed what the solution is. Once again, an invitation to use someone else's ability, namely Kel. Near the letter means you'll probably first see it as a blurry mass. Once again, collecting the key leaves a black crack in the ground, one that only Omori can perceive. But this time, this hole is wide enough to reach into it. You feel a cold breeze. Something foreign to this world is seeping in. Third, this area doesn't take any effort to go through. It's remarkably empty. It has a grand total of 2 foes, including one boss who is just standing there and that we have to choose to provoke. He's just a kid with his kite. If you chose to provoke him early on, you will probably struggle. He's one of a few bosses with the ability to heal, which makes battles much tougher. On the other hand, for people who get there near the end of the game, defeating him gets stupidly easy, to the point it feels like bullying. Once beaten, he'll reveal he's been catching a glimpse of a dark void in the sky more often lately. Guess Omori isn't the only one seeing these things. Finally, the OST, Poems in the Fog, while pretty, can be deeply unsettling. It sounds like an old music box, but an inconsistent hand is holding the handle. The tempo is irregular, the time signature keeps jumping around from 3/4 to 5/4 to 4/4, and the melody feels like it keeps building up to something that never happens. It raises the tension and never resolves it, simply looping back to the beginning. It feels incomplete. For early visitors, it adds to the emptiness and unfinishedness of the area, and for people who are trying to grab their last letter and complete Hangman, it has a feeling of urgency. I go through the junkyard one more time to look for the thingamabobs. The first time around, there was one path guarded by a few traffic cones that led to absolutely nothing, but now what I'm looking for is right there. This is also when I come across Mr. Scarecrow. A lot has already been said about Mr. Scarecrow, and to be fully honest, I don't know where to start. We keep on hurting him just to see how long his dialogue goes. We ignore his pleas to stop until he starts rambling about his past. By the end, we are on friendly terms. I also take a while recycling all of the stuff I collected at the junkyard. I get a few items for this, including an actual Nokia 3310, neat. And with that, it is now time to return the mixtape to Space Boyfriend. To recap, our first main story side quest was to find a recording, a piece of memorabilia, a sentimentally charged object that has been not so mistakenly gotten rid of because of that sentimental charge and picked up by someone else who believed themselves to be a better guardian. One that Kel in particular did not hesitate to use force to obtain, choosing to ignore the context of its discarding. Does this not remind you of anything? I've been struggling, as I've said, with finding one definite parallel to Space Boyfriend's story in the main narrative. Because if that is anything, then I guess he would be Basil. But there is also a strong case for him to represent Hero, specifically Hero 3 years ago. even though there are some chronological issues at play. Of course, that won't be relevant until we discuss that aspect of Hiro much later. There's also a case to be made that it could be a representation of Sunny or of Omori. Omori seems to draw the comparison if you decline to help. If you were sick in bed, you'd want someone to help you too, right? Would he? That's a genuinely good question. Space Boy's friend isn't just depressed and wallowing in self-pity in bed, he also has two sides to him, paralleling Sunny and Omori's dissociation. The emotion that will characterize him as a boss, though, is anger, which we've already grown to associate with Omori. The similarity of this lair to Sunny's house made me wonder actually. Who else lives like this? Who else lives in this house? Someone who might be having trouble getting over an actual breakup, left entirely unexplored in the text, in addition to the other stuff. Could Space Boyfriend be in some way a representation of Sunny's mother? She doesn't exactly seem well adjusted. But in all honesty, I don't believe any of the main Headspace quests and bosses are a one-to-one representation of people. More likely, they represent ideas. Sunny's worries, anxieties, more palatable thoughts that his brain latches on and builds plots around. In that framework, Space Boyfriend is the move and the divorce, and also perhaps something even harder to overcome. He is anyone grieving a relationship, anyone struggling with change. He is the very idea of having to deal with change, and of dealing with change badly. Judging by the pirate's reaction learning about the breakup, the relationship was already very rocky. But while Aubrey and Hiro discuss with the crew the best approach to take, Kel is, unbeknownst to them, already about to insert the tape into the boombox, and as we were warned, Space Boyfriend wakes up angry. He has a little transformation scene under his blankets, turning into his alter ego, soon to be dubbed by Aubrey Space Ex-Boyfriend, and the first thing he does is switch the tape to the much more ominous side B, so he can villain monologue with the more appropriate soundtrack. "Feelings are for losers," he says, while clearly far from neutral. He vows to make Sweetheart pay for everything, and for no discernible reason, Aubrey decides to intervene. Does she know anything about the situation? It doesn't matter. She's running us, headfirst, into a boss battle. Not that Kel and Hiro are reluctant to take matters into their hands either, but it's Aubrey, the one who decided to pick up the quest in the first place, who takes the initiative. Space Boyfriend is the first boss with whom dealing with emotion becomes necessary. He can only get angrier, from angry to enraged to furious, so you're going to need to be happy to have the upper hand. Yet he is also able to make you sad and sadder. Once defeated, he reverts to his red-headed normal self. He doesn't remember the encounter. He is still physically injured from it though. As Aubrey puts it, he got a little angry, so he simply had to repeatedly stab him and headbutt him and so on. He's okay with that though, it was probably justified. He's glad he got the cassette back, the memories are still worth it. Despite barely coming out of a hibernation of sorts, Hiro still advises him to get some rest. He always does that. Captain Spaceboy is really in a good mood though, and even takes Pluto's disappearance well and reassembles the crew. It's only now that Hiro remembers to ask about Basil. We got severely sidetracked. He wears a flower crown and always carries his photo album. I think that's about as good a description as any player could give at this point. Spaceboy attempts to dry Aubrey's tears with a snowcone ticket and a train pass. I fully intend to redeem both of those in time. We can't access the train yet though. We'd be conveniently blocked by a certain someone trying to visit her family incognito. Her name is interrogation marks, so she'll be relevant. Also, we got an eye patch from the battle. Now that'll be useful in time. Underneath his wet pillow, we finally find the letter E. Once again, it leaves a black crack in the bed, wide enough to reach into. You feel someone hold your hand inside. I hadn't taken time for this yet, but each of us gets to play a different melody on Spaceboy's piano. Omori hesitantly tries at the wet space theme, but after his second mistake, he gets frustrated and smashes the keys. Aubrey plays a rendition of the Sleepover melody, Kel of Pluto's battle theme, and Hiro a melody of his own that doesn't appear in the soundtrack. Both Spaceboy's dialogue pre-battle and his very emotionally aware monologue at the frozen lake really remind me of Aubrey much later in the story. And I wonder, once again, if that's a narrative parallel, or if that's a character trait of hers. After all, Aubrey is a Captain Spaceboy fan, and maybe she could have picked up some of her manners of speech from her favorite character. We join Mary empty-handed, at least when it comes to Basil. Mary suggests that Basil had to leave somewhere in a rush, asking Omori if he has any leads. He does. Once again, bloody footprints lead him south. At the end of the trail is Basil's shadowy figure waiting for him. Omori follows him into the cattail field. A strident noise is heard. The music has slowed down. Omori is now alone and there is no going back. There is nothing outside of the field. The starry purple sky has turned to black and the constellations are now more grandiose than whimsical. It is now snowing and dimmer. The field's denizens have left their place to disembodied voices and slowly vanishing objects. A fully eaten watermelon among some beach toys. A strawberry cake from a birthday party. Puddles and umbrellas. Playing cards surrounding a plate of cookies. A bunch of toys and some pinwheels. And far from the path the shadowy figure is leading us down, at the other end of the field past a ladder that leads to nowhere. A lone cattail is surrounded by presents. The last one to fade has the very distinctive shape of a string instrument. Shadow Basil finally unlocks the barn and red light leaks out. Inside, he disappears within a large frame. I still don't know what that frame represents, but as Omori follows his path, he finds himself on what seems to be stairs, black and white stairs that distinctly do not belong to headspace. At the end of the stairs, the letter F, which we didn't need, scribbled out sheet music, and the portrait of a happy family whose faces also get scribbled out, save for that of the daughter. And a backlight bulb that looks suspiciously like something else. And as soon as Omori tries to go back, he is chased out by something. Once again, the jump scares in this game are too fast-paced to really make out anything, but it's still clear we were looking at Basil when he freaked out, picking up the fallen picture earlier, and there's something else behind him. Omori is, once again, back at square one. The door's nowhere to be found, and the black light bulb is definitely shinier than it used to be. Something's leaking out. I know what I have to do, and it's not pleasant. Omocat probably based that part of the game on their own experience growing up. They lucid dreamed a lot and killed themselves awake a lot from those dreams. However, I can't help but feel like the game is slowly conditioning me to get used to that kind of stuff. In the next cutscene, Basil acknowledges the things behind you, which seemingly you aren't the only one seeing. And just like that, the dream ends.